question is, why do we really need one?
I've had a pretty large company even before I met you. So if we get married and then you decide to divorce me next year, then you leave with half of it, that's not fair.
But why are you already thinking about that?
Babe, it's something I have to think about. I don't know why Danny's so surprised. The prenup's obviously something that we need to have in place. I built a business long before she even came into the picture, and I have to protect that. Like, you want to get married? I'm, trying to work with you.
I don't want to be emotional. I'm just not sure if you're doing this because you don't trust me or, you're not sure about our future.
Well, I think you're overthinking it.
I don't know how to explain this to you. I feel like you're not understanding what I'm saying.
I am understanding. It's not my intentions to leave you. I hope that's not your intentions.
So, hi y'all are. This is your boy Adelaide King. And I'm doing another video. We're gonna talk a little bit more about family planning, the economics of family planning. And this is an ongoing conversation where we talk about family business, family land, family business. That's all that matters. And the topic at hand in this moment is the prenup. Bum, bum, bum. Clearly, this document is a point of contention for brides to be all over the land. Now, this video just showed up in my Facebook feed this morning. It's an actual TikTok from some clip from some reality show. I don't even know the show, but the conversation was ripe, in my opinion, for a chat. Now, in the conversation, this brother is talking to his fiance to be about her concerns with him bringing up getting a prenuptial agreement. Okay. Simply said, I'll say this, is that prenuptial agreements are like insurance for the marriage, or seatbelts even. Prenups are like seatbelts. You don't wear the seatbelt because you plan to get into a bloody accident. You don't wear that seatbelt because you plan on driving into a tree and throwing your head through the windshield. That's not why you wear the seatbelt, because you plan on it, because you have an intention on it. You wear the seatbelt just in case something happens that you could not have predicted. And that the consequence could be dastardly. You wear the seatbelt to protect yourself in the event something horrendous happens, something cataclysmic occurs. That's why you wear the seatbelt. Not because you plan on there being a failure, but in case there's a failure that you could not avoid, in case something happens that is cataclysmic, you have the seatbelt there to protect you, to ensure that you are in a position to have another car ride. And in that way, that's what the prenuptial agreement is, right? It's a document that stands there and says, like this, in this case, the brother built a business. He built a business before he met his fiance, bride-to-be, and he just wants to ensure that whatever financial future he has set up for himself and for his legacy, that is protected. There's been countless stories of people who have gotten into relationships, and men and women have gotten into relationships with people who believed that they had found their life partner. They were starstruck and dreamy-eyed about the individual that they have decided to go into a new relationship with, and they get married, and within moments, in some cases just a matter of months, there's divorce papers on the table, and sometimes the reasons can be anything. I didn't know you farted in your sleep. You snore too loud. I need a divorce. And now that individual has gotten their life's work being distributed by the courts for someone who really hasn't participated in their life's work. Look at Mary J. Blige. Mary J. Blige is dealing with something like that herself. That's just one. That's one of many who are experiencing. So then the point is not, oh, well, you don't trust me with your life's work. No, that's not the point. If I didn't trust you with my life's work, I wouldn't even be considering marrying you. Like, just the fact that we're engaging in this ritual called marriage is enough to thwart or divert or redirect or misdirect my life's work. That's a truth reality in itself. The purpose of a prenup, that concept behind it, it's just like a seatbelt. It's the thing you do before you engage in this potentially hazard experience to help protect your condition in the event something cataclysmic occurs. Has a lot of words to say in case shit happens. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to I saw the video and it just tickled me. I just wanted to add my 2 cents in because, you know, if you are a young person, so let's say it like this. You're a young person planning to get married and you don't have any assets. You know, you're just graduating from school. Your fiance is also just graduating from school. You guys, or maybe you didn't go to school. You just getting going. You know, your experience together is just starting and you really have nothing like significant independently or together. What's the purpose of the prenup? Anything that you do at that point is going to be cooperative work, and you do with the intention on sharing it together or sharing it for your kids' long-term legacy. That's the point. That's the plan at that point in time. All right. Prenup is not as critical. It's not even as essential or essential critical. It doesn't even really, it doesn't even really relate. It doesn't even really fit into your paradigm. And two individuals that haven't established much economically, However, if Bobby is marrying Susie and Susie has inheritance from her great-grandparents, whether that inheritance be land or cash or a combination of businesses or whatever the case may be, whether the value, independent of the value of the land and the businesses, is something that was explicitly Susie's before she met Bobby. And in some cases, not even Susie's own hard work that acquired it, inheritance in particular. Then it seems reasonable that Susie may want Bobby to sign a prenuptial saying, yeah, I understand that, I love this woman and I want to marry her, but she has all of these assets that were her inheritance, and I have no claim to her inheritance. I understand that any kids that we have together may have a claim to that inheritance, but it's by way of her, not by way of me. Bobby saying this to Susie in the form of a document that we would call a prenuptial. That is a pleasant way. Even if Susie only has 3 rent houses that she got from her great-grandfather in a little backwoods dirt road town in Mississippi somewhere that have very little cash value, but it has significant value to intrinsic value to Susie. These were my great-grandparents' houses, and these were houses that were passed down in our family from generation to generation, and I happen to be the one who owns it now. Or it might not even be land. It may be a brooch. It may be jewelry or artwork, or any asset really that is as a result of an inheritance or as a result of hard work before a new marriage, right? Now, of course, I'm in this particular case, I'm speaking about that brand new couple, that young couple that hasn't built any real assets for themselves in life yet, but might have inheritance, right? So you have that first class that they haven't built anything, they don't really have anything, they don't really need a prenup. But then you have that haven't built anything, don't really have anything, haven't really built anything, but they do have inherited assets, things that were intended to be generational wealth assets. And those that have those types of inheritance, they may want to significantly seriously consider a prenup, because that is a way to help ensure, not along with trusts. Now, the thing is, too, the flip side of that is, if Susie is like, oh, well, I don't want to talk to my boyfriend, fiance, soon to be husband about a prenup, it seems to me like it implies an inherent mistrust. That's a reasonable concern. I think it's more of an emotional concern than it is an actual strategic or, concern in terms of the planning process is concerned. But it's a concern. So we don't want to dismiss any concerns that someone might have as it relates to them building their future relationships and their future legacy, emotional legacy, as well as their financial legacy. And so another way to do that, to ensure that those assets are protected, right, is to not worry about a prenuptial agreement at all, because now you don't have to worry about that spouse feeling a way about the agreement, right? However, you could consider a trust, right? Because if you put those assets in a trust and you remain the trustee of those assets, right, then you direct who the beneficiaries of the trust are, right? And you also circumvent the idea of if there's ever a divorce court involved, right? Because you, the inherited, I'm not saying that word right. The one who has inherited the asset, the heir, the heir to the asset, right? Because the thing about a prenuptial agreement, the prenuptial agreement speaks specifically about if the matrimony dissolves, right? Susie and Bobby gets married. Susie had those assets that she got, whether it was artwork or jewelry or some row houses down in the backwoods, Mississippi, right? A prenuptial agreement would speak to what would happen to these assets in the event that the marriage was dissolved, right? In the event that there was a divorce and the marriage no longer was going to move forward, what happens to Susie's assets? The prenuptial agreement discusses that. But let's say something else happens in the marriage, right? And that, Susie meets an untimely demise, or she is incapacitated in some way, right? A prenuptial agreement doesn't speak to that. Prenuptial agreements prenuptial agreements aren't wills. They aren't trusts. They aren't, generally speaking, a prenuptial agreement might have some directives in there, right? And it may include directives for like for some incapacitation or untimely demise, but that's not what prenuptial agreements are designed for. They're designed to speak to what happens when the nuptial is dissolved, when the marriage itself is dissolved. And so you would need something else, another instrument to handle up for untimely death or incapacitation or anything like that. So you can, Susie, in this analogy, Susie could actually say, well, let me just do a trust and put these assets in a trust. That way they're protected for it. First of all, I don't even have to mention to Bobby. Bobby may know of my assets. He may know of this artwork. He may know whatever. But the trust speaks directly to the ownership, because I don't own these. The trust does, and I'm just a trustee. And if Susie marries Bobby, and Bobby and Susie build up assets together, but eventually divorce, those assets that Susie were the heir to aren't hers. They belong to the trust. She's just the one responsible for directing and managing the trust. And so that assignment as trustee doesn't get split, in the marriage or in the absence of the marriage. That assignment to the trust as trustee would stay solid throughout any other nuptial or any other agreement that may happen, right? And any assets that are built outside of that or outside of that. So all that to say is, don't be scared of the prenuptial. Prenuptial is like a seatbelt, The purpose of it is in case something happens, you want to protect yourself. You want to protect those assets that you built or inherited prior to the nuptial, prior to the agreement to be married. The prenuptial assets, the pre-marriage assets are being identified and they maintain their sovereignty, so to speak, or there's some maintenance for, that legacy building that has happened before this. And it's a protection mechanism, but it's not the only one. And the thing about a prenuptial agreement, it does require for those involved in the nuptials to agree. So Bobby and Susie have to both agree that Bobby's assets are Bobby's and Susie's assets are Susie's before they get married, and that if they ever were to dissolve their nuptial, that those assets will remain separate, and any assets agreed upon or created within the nuptial agreement will be subject to, nuptial agreement. Okay. So the prenuptial kind of does that, right? It basically says what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours. If we get married and we work out some stuff, and what we built together is ours. And if we split, whatever I came in with, whatever you came in with, is clearly yours. Those things are identified in the prenuptial, and then we'll work out whatever we worked out together on the end of that road. Right? That's what the prenuptial agreement does. It's a good security measure, just like a seatbelt. And it does, like I said, it does require that everyone involved in the marriage agree, right? But what doesn't require a mutual agreement is the assignment of assets into a trust. And that's something that can be done without a discussion with your fiance or boyfriend or girlfriend prior to being married, prior to the conversation of being married. As a matter of fact, you could put those assets into trusts and never even bring it up. They can see the assets, they can see you managing the assets, and say, oh, okay, well, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, my fiance, my husband, my wife has this business that they run, or have these amazing oil paintings that they inherited, or have this series of row houses in Dirt Road, Mississippi. And I know of them, and so, okay, oh yeah, and maybe even participate in, they maybe even participate in the maintenance of them, like in various ways, helping to go and maintain the properties, or storing the jewelry or the art in a way to make sure it's protected, or cleaning it or anything like that, insuring it. They may participate in any of that, right? But the asset itself belongs to the trust. And so in the event of a, dissolved prenuptial, there's no risk of loss. So anyway, this is your boy. I just wanted to chat a little bit more. Again, I'm here to build up this conversation about family planning, the estate aspect, the money aspect, the legacy building, generational wealth. This is the conversation. Like, how do we build generational wealth, and how do we work? Like I said, like I heard this meme the other day, a little short video on. It's like you work 40 years for another person. A job is a scam, is what they said. You work 40 years for somebody else and you have no more than you had when you started, right? And so that's not what we're here for. We're here to build up for ours, right? We work and we build up for our own legacy, the legacy of our name, and which includes the evidence of the work that we did, and which includes the children that we leave behind, that sort of thing. And so we want to talk constantly about how that works, and the instruments and the mechanisms and the tools and the strategies that you can use in your life to build that generational wealth to be what Proverbs 13:22 refers to as a righteous man or a woman, right? And so that's what we're here to do. And I'm so happy that you're here engaging in this conversation with us. Like, subscribe. Maybe I should have said some of this at the top of the message, but I'm saying it now. Like, subscribe. This is how I build up the algorithm, beat the software, and eventually want to do more lives on Facebook, right? So right now, in order to do the lives, you have to have 1,000 new subscribers or 1,000 subscribers. So we were trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. That's the goal right now, 1,000 subscribers, so that we can do lives and have more of these conversations, and have exchange conversations where I can bring in folk and we can talk about their concepts and that sort of thing. So that's the goal. That's where we're headed. Like and subscribe so that we can get there. Thank you so much. Have a good day.